Hello everybody and welcome back to Cinematic Venom. And what screams Christmas quite like
pyjamas?
What the hell?
Hello, I'm the pyjama critic.
Why?
I'm a critic who reviews films in pyjamas.
Why?
Well, I suppose it all started in childhood. You see, I was a
no!
Well, I'm glad you asked.
Well, what do you get when you cross the voice of Timon, iconic British stand-up comedian Lee Evans, Christopher Walken,
Timon gets reunited with Pumbaa. That's nice.
Gore Verbinski, and Christmas! Christmas everywhere! Hell, it was even starring Christmas!
It's Christmas.
Mouse Hunt was actually the first of many things. It was the first family movie produced by DreamWorks, which took the studio further down the family comedy route, ultimately leading to them being the only real rival for Disney.
Ironically, the film was actually initially offered to 20th Century Fox and Disney, but neither were able to win the rights.
Really?
It was the first film directed by Gore Verbinski, who clearly didn't care much for the rivalry as he went on to direct the Pirates of the Caribbean trilogy, and the first pairing of Lee Evans and Nathan Lane, who combined their respective comedic styles into this blend of slapstick and dark humour, something they would end up doing on stage, most notably with the West End musical production of The Producers.
Mouse Hunt was released on December the 19th, 1997 and actually opened at number 4 at the box office, grossing $122.4 million worldwide, but received mixed reviews from critics. Some loved it, while others believed the slapstick was overused and not particularly funny, in addition to not really having any characters that you can actually root for.
How can you ignore that?
The film tells the story of Lars, played by Lee Evans, and his brother Ernie, played by Nathan Lane, whose father suddenly passes away, leaving them a string factory in his inheritance, which puts them in quite a tangled mess as he really struggled to find any employees under the age of dead, and the workings are now fast unravelling.
Are you going to be making string jokes all the way through this?
Just for as long as I can string you along for. I thought it would make a good common thread.
Oh my god.
That's unbelievable.
However, Ernie refuses to work for the business, but luckily he also left them a big-ass mansion too. They discover that it's worth a lot of money. Why is this a big shocking revelation? Look at the size of it! It's huge! Dracula could live in that shit! Of course, once it's renovated, it's gonna be worth a bomb!
I'll get to the point.
But ultimately, a poorly 90s CGI animated rodent shows up and begins making their life miserable, ultimately destroying their house, all whilst they're hit with a repossession scare, unless they can raise $1,500 in a couple of days to pay off the mortgage.
$1,500 is enough for a mortgage of a house that size!
I've got to move to America.
Don't you think this is a little much?
You could argue that the cheaper price is that it's not actually taking place in the 90s, the language appears to place it there, but the fashion, technology and general aesthetic we see seems to be more fitting of the 40s, or just after. It's never actually clarified. Though Ernie does confirm it definitely takes place after 1976.
1876. Centennial House.
First off, I'd like to say that Lee Evans is one of the greatest stand-up comedians in Britain. He is a legend, so I was thoroughly excited to watch this, but my god, he plays an American with one of the worst accents you will ever hear. It is that bad. Except maybe Jason Statham.
Ernie, we're not supposed to sell it, we're supposed to run it together.
It just very often slips into his real one, but I must admit, as the film progresses, it does get a bit better, so maybe it just took him some time to get into it.
But that's not string, that's cord.
It's coming from upstairs.
Or maybe it's just shit and you just get used to it.
It's not as bad as Nathan Lane's French accent, but I think that may have been deliberate for the joke.
Leslie Cuisine, she is a fickle mistress.
They try to play off Evan's strengths and turn him into this Mr. Bean-like character. A clumsy, oafish screw-up, but he is painfully unfunny in this. They don't give him anything to work with. He doesn't have any real opportunity to shine and show what he can really do. He and Lane are clearly trying their hardest, but they just have no material to work with. I mean, was this really the best they could come up with? I just feel so sorry for Americans hearing about this legendary Lee Evans, and this is what they see. I promise, guys, he is funny. I just want to show his actual funny stand-up anytime he's painfully unfunny in this.
Okay, see you then.
Yeah, thanks for stopping by.
She began at the door. I go, how long will you be? She goes, I'll be back before you even know it. Why, tell me then. You ever played Spot the Difference with your wife? It's fantastic. She goes out, gets her hair done, comes back in and goes like, da-da! You're standing there going, now I know this one.
They have truly managed to shit on the man's legacy. They have sucked the funny out of Lee Evans. Originally, the role was actually offered to Rick Moranis, but he had already retired at this point. Bill Murray and Jim Carrey were also considered for the brothers, but both were unavailable. And Chris Farley was also considered for the role that went to Evans, but due to his addictions, he sadly wasn't able to commit. But I just don't see how anyone could have made this script work. Except maybe Robin Williams. I mean, they get a funny moment, but it's not even from Lee.
Do you remember how close we were as kids? No.
What have they done to him? The humour is painful. The slapstick is awful. It's more like slap dick.
They try way too hard with the jokes, and most of them don't land too well. But I do disagree with the slapstick. Some of the physical humour works well. Their well-timed attacks hurting each other rather than the mouse, their obliviousness to the mouse outwitting them at every turn. Even these mediocre attempts at being a latter-day Laurel and Hardy can elicit some chuckles. And sure, the chase outstays its welcome, but at least we got a chance to admire the work of the mouse actors. Yes, those are all shots of a real mouse. A family of 60 mice bred and trained purely for this movie, which helped make the wider shots of the mouse that we see throughout. Close-ups and facial expressions had to be done with a trained rat with a CGI makeover, and for the 90s it came out surprisingly well.
No, it still sucks!
Oh, that's too bad.
It's lazy, cheap, and painfully unfunny. The movie came out during the time where it was just popular to have adults being destroyed by little people or animals. It's Home Alone, it's Baby's Day Out, it's Flubber, it's The Borrowers, it's 101 Dalmatians, it's Little Rascals, it's Stuart Little, it's Matilda, it's Hocus Pocus, it's The Witches, it's complete dog shit! There is not an ounce of creativity in the film, story or humour-wise. They just seem to think that two doofus characters fighting is automatically funny. But Bill and Ted or Bottom, this is not. It's not Wayne's World, it's not even Biodome! Okay, I take it back.
You're smarter than you look.
They tick every lazy slapstick trope in the book, and not once are any of these gags funny. By 97, you think we would have moved on by this point. They rip off Batman Returns with a psychotic animal inside a cage devouring everything. Even the animal's slapstick is arse. Hairy, sweaty arse! But not as arse as the puppet effects of the cat. That's a hairy, sweaty arse with acne. How do you have Lee Evans, the voice of Timon, and Christopher Walken together, and it's still not funny?
Ah, Hakuna Matata.
He does that a lot, doesn't he?
Are you crazy?
I mean, certain jokes could have been funny, but they're so dragged out. Like here, from the lingering shots of them having trapped themselves into a corner, to this elongated showcasing of the mouse trainer's work, all to this obvious payoff followed by another crap joke. There are some mediocre jokes, but fun cameos.
This film needs to be studied. To have this much talent on screen and have none of them portray any kind of genuine humour. It's actually quite impressive. The writers need to be locked in a room, have them strapped to a machine and prodded. How do you do this? How is this possible? I mean, for crying out loud, Timon is meeting up with some guys to sell the family business. But oh no, he's late because his hat flies off. Isn't that funny? His hat flies off. Okay, that's a little bit funny. I mean, they blow themselves up twice, and neither time is it funny.
At times, Lee Evans is really in his element, and this particular shot was done with practical effects that required all of these clothes to be knitted upside down so that they would come apart in the correct and most comical way possible.
It didn't work! But yeah, they just yell at each other back and forth. Yeah, they'll make someone laugh eventually, I'm sure! No, they won't.
I almost feel sorry for the little fella.
There's a scene where Timon tries murdering the mouse with a gavel at an auction, and my god, I've seen scenes in Schindler's List funnier than this! To be fair, it took longer than expected to do a boob joke. And a dick joke nearly made it through the whole film. I was starting to get nervous. Of course, there's the overused gag of the house being flooded because apparently the director saw Jumanji. But I will admit, it is kind of funny that during all of this madness trying to get the rat...
Not a rat, it's a mouse.
Shut up. The auction continues no matter what.
I think the jokes with the crowd here are rather hit and miss, and it also wraps up a few subplots in a quite underwhelming fashion.
It has its moments, albeit very rare. Like when the mouse completely destroys their lives and then casually heads to bed. But the direction is so weird. It will just randomly shift into epic POV shots. It's like the director just found a brand new lens and really wanted to show it off. And it is kind of funny seeing the little bugger go full Indiana Jones on them.
Although I must admit, this silent fandango of exasperation as they demonstrate their pain to each other is really funny.
But fair play going down the dark route, the mouse gets woken up and nearly impaled to death. But the direction is so ridiculous. They kind of get me to care about a goddamn mouse. They have all of this talent on screen, and I don't care. I don't give a shit about any of them. But I care about a teeny Even the little rodent plans murder. I appreciate the dark nature, but what's the point when none of it is funny?
It certainly is a black comedy. Lars' wife April, played by Vicky Lewis, is outraged at him for refusing to sell the family business, despite him obeying his father's dying wish, and she even kicks him out. Now, I have made it clear on my own show, subscribe now.
Hey!
I've made it clear on my own show about my thoughts on women abusing their husbands being played for laughs, and I don't want to dwell on it too much here. But what I will say is that I am relieved she isn't portrayed at all as a sympathetic character. She doesn't have much screen time, but when she does appear, she's shown as an unapologetic gold digger and manipulator.
What a treasure. What a legacy.
Spoons!
Ah, so Mouse Hunt inspired The Room. One thing it did right.
Alexander Falco!
Wow, they even come accompanied with their very own villain music. That's cool. Ah, looks like some very lazy foreshadowing. Actually, it's not foreshadowing. Never comes up again. Just big dramatic shot of him looking at the camera. Never mentioned, completely pointless. Kind of dumb, really. Waste of time, really. Waste of money. The director just wasted his effort and money and resources on making this crappy film that's ruined our lives. He should have it raised, and he should be thoroughly ashamed of himself.
It led to Pirates of the Caribbean.
There's not even a real plot either. They hunt for a goddamn mouse. It's just an endless string of things happening.
You said string. Endless string.
They don't have a sense of humor or irony.
Christopher Walken is an exterminator hunting down the mouse. Timon is trying to get the money together. Lee Evans is running around naked and is about to shag his ex. I really just said that. But I must admit, this edit is hilarious.
You look like you could use some warming up.
Fair play.
Normal people are not psychologically equipped to catch mice.
Gee, I wonder what's going to happen. What? Well, I did not see that. That just came completely out of left field. I am shocked and dismayed. The thing is, them trying to get the $1,500, that's dropped in like 15 seconds. Yet they're warned about the money, panic, Timon tries to make some moves to get it, Lee shags his ex and she gives them the money. That's it! Moving on, and then the rest of the film is them chasing the goddamn mouse!
That was supposedly the start of a subplot about Lee's ex-wife trying to get her share of the money from the house, but literally nothing comes of that.
You think I didn't have other things I wanted to do with my life?
Yeah, you try having emotional character development now. Yeah, see how well that works out for you.
As is often the case with this sort of comedy, where a pair of frenemies are forced to unite in a shared mission, the whole arc, fallout, outpouring of true feelings and ultimate reconciliation just flies past too quickly, as if it has become an afterthought by this point.
They even send the mouse away and it gets returned to sender. The mouse somehow not dying in transit. I mean, that could be really funny, but the delivery is wank. And then supposed hilarity ensues all over again because apparently this mouse is Agent 47. But I guess randomly the mouse feels bad and apologizes for ruining their lives? And then they're friends now. They're just friends. And they want to take a shot at Disney.
I think you should be our spokesperson. I know some people who use the mouse as a spokesperson, and it seemed to work out pretty well.
This ending is so completely out of left field, it leaves me questioning if the production just ran out of time and money and hurriedly shoved this in. Oh yeah, they're friends now, the mouse turns cheese into edible string, giving the two boys an idea for a new business that makes new use of the factory and combines their respective passions. Roll credits. There's also a deleted scene where Walken is working there, having sought a new career following his traumatic encounter with a mouse, but it was cut out. I guess they thought it was all too cheesy.
A fan theory is that the mouse is actually their father reincarnated, and he was teaching them a lesson. But let's be honest, the movie isn't smart enough for that. This film is painful. Now, it's nowhere near as bad as a lot of other movies I've seen, but it's so unfunny, it's so lazy, and there's no real story, so why does it even exist? I'd say there's no effort put in, but production-wise, there clearly is. They really tried, and considering the star power they had, I am amazed at how much it truly sucks. Mouse Hunt should have spent more time hunting for a good writer instead.
It's a pretty lame, childish comedy, but it's enjoyable for what it is. I know there are a few jokes that missed the mark along the way, but overall, there are enough hits to make it worth your while. Lee Evans and Nathan Lane bring their best game and make a truly fun double act. Of course, the real star of the show is the mouse. He's the one we're all going to remember, and certainly earned his spot front and centre of the posters and in all the trailers. I did some research but couldn't find any information on what became of the trained mice. I doubt any of them saw a share in the box office, the movie industry can be really unfair like that, but I can only hope they had nice retirements as pets for some of the cast and crew, or their kids. I do like that it vaguely counts as Christmas movie. I think just because of the release dates, they shoved the bits in.
Yeah, well, it counts. It counts. I mean, I did Life of Brian. That's a Christmas film.
Oh, yeah, I suppose the opening shots.
Edward Scissorhands, that's a Christmas film.
Ah, yes.
Because the third act. Gremlins.
Yeah, like Home Alone, isn't it? Just set it around Christmas, even if it's got nothing to do with it.
Yeah.